Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're here with another episode of Dark, episode 2 of season 2. Now, in the last episode, I did miss an important detail. One of the highlights at the very beginning with the date 1921. I must have spaced out or something, but I completely missed it. That date does raise some interesting questions. Of course, my theory about Bartosz being Noah is completely disproved now. We met younger Noah, and the other character that was in the mine, the one that took the axe, he said to him to ask Adam why he named him Noah. And of course, the biblical references have been there throughout the entirety of the previous season, but a bit more prominent now. And I do wonder whether, there's some veiled indication here as to what they represent. Adam, of course, can be seen as representing the beginning, and Noah the end, because the flood. So beginning and end. And the fact that we've gone as far back as 1921, which isn't 33 years from 1953. It's only 32 years. So that bit's interesting. But nonetheless, I do wonder how far this actually goes back, whether it goes as far back as the very beginning of of mankind, and what the repercussions of that actually may be. So the major revelation is us meeting what I'm assuming is the actual villain of the story, which is actually Adam, and figuring out what exactly his motivations are. Noah is nothing but another tool at this point, but I don't get the impression that Noah is going along with everything as he's being told to. I feel as though he has something else in mind. We saw back in season 1, he had a conversation with Helg, I believe, and he said to him that there is no God, there is no grand plan or anything of that sort. But Adam himself still, I just don't even get the impression that he still believes, but he's very much aware of what happens to people who have shown doubt. He himself had to kill someone who started to show doubt. So I think he very much disapproves of whatever Adam's plan is, but he's kept that to himself because he knows what will become of him if he doesn't do it. So he certainly has some other plans devised of his own. But in one of the things that this did highlight is that the similarities between the stranger and Noah, they still seem very similar to me, very similar in what they're trying to accomplish, or their unwillingness to just give in to what is supposedly the divine, and what will be, and so I think those two characters are very similar. I'm quite interested to see when they come ahead, what head to head, what will the conclusion be. I don't think we've ever seen them actually meet, but at the same time, they seem so similar. Hope we're in the future. We're following younger Jonas. So we followed him for quite a bit. A few things of note, because we now know the world ends in 6 days on June 27th, but he went to the graveyard, and something that just stuck out to me because we didn't see it. That's not to say that it didn't happen, but while older Jonas, the stranger, was there with his mom, and he told her, that younger Jonas is in the future. But then we cut to younger Jonas, and he visits this gravesite to see where all the people who perished on June 27th were. His mother's name wasn't there. He didn't look on her gravestone, which seems quite odd considering how close he is with his mom. We saw him look at his father's grave. We saw him look at I believe Martha's as well, and a few other characters, but we didn't see his mother's gravestone. So I do wonder where she is, especially because she has now been told the truth. And whether she's actually still alive in the future, because Ellie still seems to be very much alive and leading this group. I don't know if it's a resistance or whatever her group is trying to accomplish, but she very much seems to be keeping everyone away from whatever it is that is in the facility. and I imagine that is what results in the apocalypse, or what you want to call it, in 2019, or 2020, I should say. That is whatever happens there. You know, what is in the facility at this point in time would be responsible for it. So why is she keeping everyone away from that? And what is this prophecy that she and her group have devoted themselves to? So there are a lot of definitely a lot of questions. But the one thing we do know, I mean, is that Jonas, he's definitely not going to be making it back home, because we know that the stranger didn't make it back home until he was much older. At least that is my belief from what we've seen so far. The lashes on his back would suggest that he has made the attempt several times, but for whatever reason they chose not to kill him. They punished him with each time that he most likely attempted it, by beating him. And I suspect Ellie has some knowledge of that, because of what her mom, what Charlotte learns, what Peter learns in the past, and she likely learned about that from them. And so she has some knowledge of the events to come, but she doesn't wish to change that. And I suspect that she actually knows Jonas plays an important role, and in a weird way wants to ensure that things continue to happen the way that they've been happening. Although I'm not sure what side she's on, whether she's on the side of the light or the side of the dark, as Noah has interpreted it. So a lot of questions, guys, a lot of questions. So I'm just gonna jump right in, and hopefully I can put together some theories by the end with what information we're given. So episode 2, let's check it out.
Auch nach längerer Beobachtung lässt sich nicht sagen, aus welcher Quelle sich die instabile Materie speist. Messungen deuten darauf hin, dass es keine Form von Energie.
I mean, does Jonas even have any knowledge of radiology? He's not a physicist. Does he even know what he's doing? Whoa. No. I mean, surely someone would have tried to stabilize it before. "5 days until the apocalypse."
Komm, wird schon alles gut gehen, ne? So noch eine Woche, dann sind schon Ferien.
Interview mit Frau Tiedemann. Schon vergessen?
Nein. Ich frage mich nur, warum wir mit Frau Tiedemann anfangen. Sie steht mit keinem der Vermissten in irgendeiner Beziehung.
Sind Alexander Tiedemann und seine Frau eigentlich verheiratet?
Warum?
Fänden Sie es nicht außergewöhnlich,
Was?
dass Alexander Tiedemann den Nachnamen seiner Frau angenommen hat?
I asked that question last season. Hey, my only question is, still why exactly Charlotte would be hiding the truth. Unless she feels it's so unbelievable that there's no point in getting.
Blasen 40 €, Anal 85, Spielchen kosten extra. Mit wem hast du es gemacht, hä? Wem in diesem verschissenen Kaff hast du schon eingeblasen?
That's his concern?
Dein erster Gedanke ist, dass ich mich prostituiere?
Ja, was denn sonst?
Ich verkaufe nicht meine Titten oder meinen Arsch. Ich verkaufe Rezepte für eine scheiß Hormontherapie, du Idiot.
Are you saying all that in front of Ellie?
Das Problem sind nicht die Geheimnisse. Das Problem ist der Scheiß, den jeder in jeden hineinprojiziert. Ich
Both.
hab dir gesagt, es geht dich einen Scheißdreck an und es geht dich auch einen Scheißdreck an. Ich kann nicht glauben, dass du mir hinterher spioniert hast. Was für ein Freak bist du denn?
She's not wrong there. Yeah. You messed up, Magnus.
Eine Zeitmaschine.
Does it still work?
Mit diesem Apparat kann man 33 Jahre in die Vergangenheit und 33. Ich habe versucht, ein Geheimnis zu bewahren. Aber in Wahrheit ist es genau das, was uns kaputt macht.
Secrets?
Deswegen will ich, dass du es selber siehst.
Mach mal Platz, du Spack.
You walked into him.
Angela, komm mal jetzt.
Claudia? Meet Claudia.
Ist das Ihr Hund?
It's also yours.
Es tut mir so leid.
How are all these people getting in to meet the head of the facility so
Aber
easily?
niemand hat sie vermisst. Und sie sieht aus wie der Hund, den ich hatte, als ich ein Kind war. Gretchen.
Something looks familiar about
Wissen Sie
you.
das? Weil es mein Hund ist.
And it's your dog.
Genauso wie es deiner ist.
I guess perhaps he did care about, Matt's case. Just couldn't solve it.
Warum nicht weit weg?
Is he retired at this point?
Gleich wird unsere Sekretärin zum rechten Tisch gehen. Auf dem Weg wird sie sich Luft zuwedeln. Achte auf Kowalczyk. Gleich lässt er seinen Stift fallen.
Perv? Really?
Ich habe alles erlebt.
You just experienced it.
Alles, was du erlebt hast, alles, was du erleben wirst. Ich bin du. Und mir wurde von mir gesagt, dass wir eine und dieselbe Person sind.
Is he trying to draw attention to himself? Oh, mission accomplished. What's the plan here? Seems risky. He needs to power the machine somehow, so he needs fuel. Oh, damn. Hustle. Come on, get out of there.
Mann. Seit wann lebt er in Winden?
Seit 1986. Wieso fragen Sie?
Warum hat er Ihren Nachnamen angenommen?
That's when the disappearances happen.
Letztes Jahr kam ein Fremder ins Hotel. Das sind seine Sachen. Ist nach ein paar Tagen wieder gegangen, wollte das Zimmer aber behalten. Ist nie zurückgekommen.
I better hide out, Jonas.
Das
I mean,
hing
stranger.
überall an seinen Wänden.
That's exactly where they're going to be heading, though. The Cornwalls.
Ich muss gehen.
Elisabeth hat Schwimmunterricht, das habe ich ganz vergessen.
Why is
Tut mir leid.
this is beyond suspicious?
Sie können sich ein
Acts
Taxi nehmen.
normal. Does no one here know how to divert suspicion from themselves? I thought he was asking about her husband. I mean, why isn't he pressing her for that information more? She gave him something to throw him off the trail, but
Ich hab dir gesagt, das wird
Come on.
einfacher zu verstehen sein, wenn du es erst gesehen hast. Hab keine Angst.
he knows the feeling.
Müsstest du nicht in der Schule sein?
God. Come on. Yeah,
Dass man eben nicht so
freak
recht
that
wohin
came
mit
to
sich
visit
selbst.
me in the hospital.
Da würde ich aber lieber nicht rein. Sind schon manche nicht mehr rausgekommen.
Yeah, that doesn't sound threatening at all.
Gott. Und dass er für jeden Menschen einen Plan hat. Aber was ist, wenn Gott keine Ahnung hat, was er tut?
Manchmal müssen wir nur ein bisschen fester dran glauben, dass alles wieder gut wird.
Du hast gesagt, du hättest die Landstraße nach Hause genommen, aber das ist ein Umweg. Warum bist du nicht über den Waldweg gefahren?
Kann die Vergangenheit ändern und die Zukunft.
Wer hat das gesagt?
Der Mann mit dem Stein.
Aber das ist 30 Jahre her. Was hat das mit Mats zu tun?
Was ist das? Das ist die größte Entdeckung der Menschheit. Und zugleich ihr Untergang.
So she wants the cycle to continue, but I thought she was on the opposite side to
Beginnt
Noah.
alles neu. Du musst Adam stoppen.
Wer ist Adam?
Du verstehst es jetzt noch nicht.
But you do, so tell me.
Dahin wird alles so geschehen, wie es immer geschehen ist. Geschehen muss. Du hast nicht mehr viel Zeit mit Regina. Aber wenn alles gelingt, dann wird sie leben.
Oh, you better be a believer now. Got caught. Ellie's group. Yeah. Well, we know she doesn't kill him, so I guess that's where the scars on his back come from.
War ein Mann in Reginas Hotel.
Er hatte Zeichnungen dabei. Kopien.
Was sind das für Zeichnungen?
Die sind aus dem Buch. Das Buch, das mein Großvater geschrieben hat. Eine Reise durch die Zeit. Warum hat er mir nie gesagt, wer meine Eltern wirklich sind.
Who are her parents?
Warum lügst du sie an? Warum sagst du nicht, dass wirklich in der Todeszone ist? Ah! Die Passage wird sich niemals öffnen. Euer Paradies, das gibt es nicht. Aber hinter der Mauer...
So who saves him? Because we know he doesn't die. She does. Interesting. Who are Charlotte's parents?
Entschuldigen Sie bitte. Vielleicht erinnern Sie sich nicht mehr an mich. Mein Name ist Egon Tiedemann.
Oh,
ich
he
habe Sie vor
remember
34 Jahren verhaftet.
I don't think he'll ever forget you.
My only aim is to take many lives. The more, the better I feel.
Ich kenne das.
Yeah, you told it to him and he told it to you later on. You told it to him when he was a kid.
Das bedeutet, dass du Trottel immer noch nichts verstanden hast. Aber jetzt musst du dich beeilen. Du hast nicht mehr viel Zeit. Ich weiß, wann du stirbst.
Ich verstehe nicht.
Ja, natürlich tust du das nicht. Aber vielleicht ist es auch dein Schicksal, ahnungslos zu sterben, so wie du geboren wurdest.
Same goes for you. I don't think you comprehend everything as well. Those two are just going to continue screwing each other over and over and over again.
Warum hat sie dich nicht getötet?
Interestingly, this girl didn't want him to die.
Ich will, dass du es mir zeigst.
I mean, she can't kill you. Are you sure you want to risk this? Ah, finally, they've arrived. All right, some genuine feelings from Hannah. Okay. The cycle continues.
Sie hat gesagt, es ist ein Portal.
Wer?
Ihr Name ist Claudia Tiedemann. Ich weiß, es macht alles keinen Sinn, aber das da ist vielleicht der einzige Weg, um zurück nach Hause zu kommen. Keine Ahnung, ob es funktioniert.
Du willst da rein?
It's all or nothing.
Ob ich da drin sterbe oder da draußen, macht keinen Unterschied mehr.
Exactly. I want to know who she is, though. Well, here goes nothing.
Jonas!
Where is he now? All right, guys, episode 2. When is Jonas? when is Jonas? Just a quick note though, because something that caught me off at the start and then the end here, but they kind of gave some clarification at the end, because I was wondering how is it Jonas is operating the machinery, or how is he trying to stabilize the God particle? He's not a theoretical physicist, and like but they did give some explanation that he made us with following instructions from the recordings that Claudia left behind. So I mean, interesting guys. Definitely a lot of questions. Something that hasn't been clarified for me just yet. We've had this talk about the light and the dark. It was, well, not talk. It was brought up last season by Noah, and was pretty much just left there, you know. And if I remember correctly, he said he's perceived as the dark, but he considers himself to be the light. But in my mind, I don't think it's that black and white as anyone is light or dark. I think everyone is working towards their own objectives. And even Claudia, in her conversation here with herself, admits that certain things do need to happen. So in that respect, they both share some objectives. But as to what the end game is that they're all working for, no one knows, except that everyone seems to be in agreement that Adam needs to be stopped. I'm curious, Jonas. When we first met Jonas, or when he, from what I understand, when he initially arrived in 2019, I don't think he's aware of who Adam is. He still sees Noah as, I guess, as the big baddie. We haven't seen him cross paths with Noah at any point. They know about each other, but we've never seen them actually cross paths. At least I think. I don't remember exactly. I think the stranger mentioned Noah. I could be mistaken. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But from what Claudia said, the person at the top, the person that needs to be stopped, is actually Adam. So I guess we sort of know who our big baddie is, but maybe not. I don't think anything is ever that easy with the show. But all of these characters, when they come in contact with their older selves, I do find myself wondering, okay, why don't you just tell yourself everything that will happen to make things a lot easier? And I think that is what the stranger is doing now, in maybe not with himself but with Hannah, in that he said the secrecy is really the cause of all of this, and he's trying to take a different approach this time around. But that rung true for me with the conversation Claudia had with her older self, because she could have told her something of what would happen. That in and of itself would change things, but she refuses to do that. The stranger didn't do that initially when he met younger Jonas. He only told him when he was about to be teleported to the future anyway. But they simultaneously want to change the future, but still believe some things need to remain the same. And I can't figure out whether that is for their own survival, because they know they would be likely erased if they do tell themselves that. But even if you are erased, it would ensure that something changes. So I don't know. Yeah, there's always a conflict there between what they feel should happen. But Jonas seems to be taking a different approach now. He told Hannah everything that he knows. He now knows, because last episode he deliberately kept the Mikko thing from her. I guess that would have seemed too crazy. So it was better for her to see that versus just being told. And it worked. And I know a lot of people are feel for Hannah and feel that she is she's owed some redemption. Unfortunately, for me personally, I've not seen her earn any redemption just yet. She is in the scene here where she sees Mikko with his mom there. She Inez, I believe, she does she does show that she does care for him. But I'm looking at it here now, and I'm also thinking later on in the future where, as soon as he passes away, she's already back to screwing Ulrich or screwing. So I'm not where everyone else is as far as thinking, okay, she's so saddened by her husband's passing and saddened by she's definitely saddened by her son's disappearance. That's fine, but that doesn't absolve her of everything else, and it doesn't make her a good person. Um, it barely makes her a good mom because I've just not seen her do anything mother like for an entire season. Um, so I'm interested to see where they take her character. I said it the last episode that I hope something on this grand a scale is enough for her to be a bit more selfless and help the stranger work towards something else, work towards saving everyone. Versus just finding Ulrich. So we'll see where that goes. And of course, that bit there with Egon and Ulrich, it was sad and unfortunate, but hilarious at the same time. And brilliant casting again with older Ulrich here. But I mean, my only aim is to take many lives. The more, the better I feel. And if I'm not mistaken, Egon said that to when Ulrich was blasting music, the lyrics in 1986. He said that to him, but then older Ulrich said that to him in 1953 again, and here he is repeating it to him again. So they're in a constant cycle, just going over and over again of hating each other, and they're stuck in that cycle. It's terrible to watch, but it's funny. It's sort of funny. And interestingly enough, we've been talking about the God particle for quite a bit here, and I think in the scientific community in and of itself, I don't think anyone even likes referring to it as God particle. I think it was that contrast was drawn, if I remember correctly, because someone used it to describe how elusive and unprovable it was at a point in time, until it wasn't. But then people just ran with the God particle because it sounds cool. It makes theoretical physics sound pretty cool. But I don't think people in the scientific community actually like referring to it as that. But the bigger conversation around nuclear power, one that I think I mentioned that at the very beginning, and as I said at the end of last season, I wanted more discussions about religion and science, the dichotomy between the two, and I'm getting more of that, and I like it. Give me more scenes with the father, with Noah and Miko. That was another interesting scene there. Nuclear power on a whole is a separate discussion, but it's the overarching theme, especially with this small town and with the facility being built, and the sell is that it will ensure a better life for you and your loved ones. That's the billboard that was put up prior to the facility being built, and there are a lot of conversations around it in current time, as we all know. As to how viable nuclear power is, and there are many arguments to be made on both sides. I'm no expert, of course, so I can't speak confidently to say one way is right versus the other. But I think all right, renewable energy is I think for the moment the way to go. And I know there are downsides. No matter what you do, there are going to be downsides. So there are people who say that, okay, even with wind and solar power, there's still pollution. Yes, there's pollution, but it's a lot less than fossil fuel. Nuclear power is clean, but then it comes with the risk of, when it comes to disposing of nuclear waste and all that, it's volatile. And I guess the question is it worth the risk? People always, there's one aspect of it where we always focus on the negativity, what the negative aspects of it and not the positives. and it's always a matter of weighing one versus the other and seeing which is more impactful. And for the moment, I would say I'm on the side of it's something worth investing in. It's something worth looking into for the future. I don't think at this point in time we have the tools necessary to ensure that it's managed properly. Disposal is taken care of. Everything has to be taken into account because there's no once you go there, there's no going back. That's the bigger issue. So you have to ensure that everything that's necessary is in place when you go in that direction, because there's no turning back once you go there. So that's where I am with it. It always makes for interesting conversation and interesting debate. So be sure to post down in the comments and let me know if you have any thoughts on that subject. I'm wondering though. When I saw Mikkel at the cave, my first thought was, okay, he could just sleep outside the cave and he doesn't have any way to activate it. There's a bit of confusion where the time travel is concerned. The show hasn't clarified for me just yet. We know that the machine can be used to replicate the black hole, so that allows them to move through time. We've seen Claudia do it now. We've seen the Stranger do it now. But when Jonas crossed over, he didn't do any of that. He just went through the door that with Sigmundus Kratos-esque on the door. That's how he passed through. That's also how Ulrich passed through. So what is separating that from the machine itself? What is the purpose of the doors? Do they work separately, or that bit I'm a bit not clear on. What is the purpose of the door if the machine exists, or vice versa? If the machine works, why did they use the door? Or is it that only those individuals can pass through because of their role in the whole timeline? So that bit is just hasn't been made clear as yet. So I hope the show clarifies that somewhere later down the line. And finally, I mentioned in the last episode there was the photo that Ellie found and showed to Peter, where she recognized Noah, and she said to him that, or rather in the photo next to him was Agnes, who's supposed to be Tron's mom. Now, if we make some assumptions, she was questioned about her husband. I think it was Egon. She didn't say that to Egon. I think she said it to Mrs. Tiedemann. I didn't get Mrs. Tiedeman's first name, so I just have Mrs. Tiedemann there. But she didn't say, she kind of alluded to her husband maybe being abusive, and then we saw Tron's arm that had cigarette burns and stuff like that. So there's a possibility that Tron's parents are Agnes and Noah. It's a real possibility that means. As far as Charlotte is concerned, they couldn't be her parents in that timeline, but there could be a real possibility that she's related to the Nielsen's in some way. Maybe. It's possible that Trant is her dad. We do know Trant and Claudia were having an affair. So there's some real possibility there that there's a connection between the Nielsen's and the Tiedemanns. We know that all these families in some way are connected. We just haven't found a connection with the Dopplers with everyone else. But that may be where the connection is. And it could very well be that someone from the Tiedemanns and the Nielsen's are Charlotte's parents. My money's on Trant and Claudia, but could be someone else. But that would be very interesting, though. She did seem shocked when she found out. We didn't see what she was looking at, but I suspect it's someone from or both of those two families that are her parents. And that would connect everyone. That would connect all the families, except the Obendorfs. I have not forgotten about them. It's still weird that I'm waiting for something to drop in. There are some clues. There are some things that were introduced that have not been tied back to the storyline just yet. One, the pocket watch that was found, that Noah gave to Ellie and told her that it belonged to her mom. we still don't know where. We still haven't seen where Charlotte was given that pocket watch as yet. Assuming that's to come. And we still don't know how the open doors fit into all this, and Eric's disappearance, how that fits into everything. So there's still a few pieces that haven't fallen into the puzzle as yet, but I'm sure we'll get more and more answers as the episodes progress. So be sure to post down below, let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. Hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys for the next one.